also create like a admin role. And you never want to really create any blog posts or anything with your admin role. So you only want to use that admin role for admin stuff only. And the same for a user. They should have two if the owner of the thing, if they're going to be blogging, they don't want to be blogging with their admin account because someone sees that and they already have a username to go after if they want.
Right.
So.
And there are some premium themes and plugins that'll limit, certain functionality.
Right, you want to
based on-
limit your
based on
login
user
accounts.
roles.
There's a lot of different things you can do like that as well. But
Another thing around security, and the topic of security that I see a lot of and have seen a lot of is just, let's face it is open source. There's a lot of open source plugins out there. And a lot of what I've seen is just somebody installed a plugin and it, next thing you know, half of their content has been changed to Chinese. And yeah, I mean, that's huge.
Sure.
Is be cautious, do your research, be educated in plugins. I think that's part of the value of meetup groups like this, because I think that a lot of value that I get out of this is, just knowing what other people are using for plugins. Because if you're just doing a blind search to try to find a plugin to do certain things, you could run across the wrong plugin and create this wormhole for your sites and client sites. So
Yeah, and I know there's, because I'm pretty adamant that eCommerce should have, and I didn't do this for ones like they have, but definitely to make sure that the passwords are secure and only allow certain type of encrypted passwords. I don't even know if it's security or something else that will do that. I can't remember offhand what plugin it is, but it is, in my opinion, so important to do. It's simple. Brute force. Just give them enough time. They're going to get in. It's simple.
And like working for an IT organization, and I've managed IT clients and still work with, and my new business will work with managing IT clients. And when we manage IT clients, even from the Active Directory access levels to the servers, I kind of follow the policy that I also just explained with, what I recommend for WordPress is you give them an admin right for that, but also give them user control rights. That way, here's an admin right. I want you to write this down, Mr. CEO, and keep this in the back pocket of your wallet.
Yeah.
And break the glass with the axe only when I get hit by a bus or something happens. But otherwise, use this, and that way they have the user rights so that if something does happen, you're not giving them this huge opportunity to blow everything up.
But when doing admin, don't actually use admin.
don't use that.
Right, exactly.
For the record.
Right. Don't use admin, don't use password, don't use password with the @ symbol and 2 5s, okay? And password 1 is not secure either. I don't care. So
I think your original question was about keeping it up to date. Very important, I think, to keep WordPress up to date and
Okay.
keep all your plugins up to date and remove any plugins that aren't being used. So if they're
Or
not
themes that
active,
aren't supported anymore. There was just a theme that got taken off of WordPress, the repository, because they're not following the rules.
and sometimes themes may have updates as well, depending on what theme you're using too.
I've seen sites feedback for update themes
Yeah.
more than once.
I would say that, 50% of issues, like just having, worked for a short stint over at GoDaddy, 50% of their call issues around WordPress, working on the WordPress team, 50% of their call-in issues were directly related to, as far as security goes, is you get about 50% of them were dumb end user things, passwords. giving access rights to everybody and their brother-in-law. You know, that, how many people change jobs within today's day? There's, you know, the average tenure of a person in an organization anymore is 3 years. I mean, especially in technology industry. So, you know, you gotta be cognizant of that. I think that's 50% of it is just bad passwords and giving it away to the wrong people or too many people, and just, you know, I mean, you don't give your credit card number to everybody, so.
It's really understanding what those admin roles are, the user roles,
Yeah.
and making sure, depending on what type of website you're setting up for a customer, that you understand those and you set up the accounts to match the way they should be using it.
And that's why I say that you need to take the role of an educator to the client, not necessarily spend an abundant amount of time, as Seth said, you know, educating the client, but at least go over the baseline rules, the common sense rules that really aren't common sense to that many people. And I would say that about 25% of the other issues were not using SSLs when they should be used.
Well, that does is it prevents man-in-the-middle inspection of data traffic in between your site and the client.
Yeah. Which isn't that big if it's a small organization.
Well, I think a lot of sites don't really need it, especially if you're not taking taking money, obviously.
Right.
We would always use it, but most of mine never run
Yeah.
it.
I do it because it's good for SEO.
But
Yeah.
minimally, yeah, good for SEO, as of right now. I think it will get progressively
Are you
more.
using the free SSL or are you
Yeah, it
using
does.
the?
Why not?
Yeah,
Well, I was
wouldn't
just
it?
curious.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that you keep in mind is that, let's say that you're working on your WordPress site in a coffee shop or something like that.
Sure.
Someone else connected to the network can also do such man-in-the-middle attacks and thus get your credentials that way.
Yeah.
So really, it's if you edit your WordPress site in public, then you should get an SSL.
You should have SSL.
Good
And you
call.
should be using
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And you should be using SFTP rather than FTP too if you're doing it anywhere other than at home or whatever. So
Okay, here's another question. Every time you're updating your WordPress version or a plugin or whatever, do you need to back it up every time before all of those? And what is the easiest way to back things up? 'Cause I don't really know that much about it. I did it before and it seemed really, I've only done it once on one of the sites that I've ever built. It's just so bad, and it just seems so cumbersome, and I was like, I won't know how to fix this if I have to actually use this backup. I won't know how to.
Let me ask, what's your favorite hosting service? Are your sites like, are they generally on the same hosting service or are they on different hosting services?
I almost always try to use GoDaddy just because that's really easy, so I do it all through there and get the WordPress hosting.
You use get the WordPress hosting. That actually has automated backups on it, as I recall.
Yeah.
Do you have to
So
set them
A
up?
lot of the big names in hosting, they do
yeah.
automatic.
So that type of thing is as
Those
long
are
as
carried
it's
forward.
that day or something like that. Like if you made if you added a lot of content a couple days before, I'd go in and actually tell it to back up. But typically that's done on the fly for you automatically.
Okay, so then if I did have an issue, could I just call GoDaddy and be like, how do I?
Yeah, it's
get
pretty
this
simple.
backup?
In,
Okay.
in that, it's pretty simple. You can actually, when you log in, you can go to Manage WordPress, and then
Are you using Managed WordPress or cPanel or what?
Good question.
cPanel is actually.
I'm not sure. I've definitely done some stuff in the cPanel.
Yeah, you have a lot more control in cPanel than you do in
Okay.
Manage WordPress. They actually pretty much dumbed that down to a point that you can't even use a VPN or content delivery. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I use a plugin called Backup Buddy from iThemes. I recommend having something besides the hosting
Okay.
Sure.
backup as well. But
And just kind of a insider scoop, having been out there for a short stint at GoDaddy, how they like if you call in for anything with their managed WordPress, their policy is before they even when they open your managed WordPress to take a look at anything instantly. They're supposed to run a backup.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's what some of my training, some of what they taught me when I was out there was, if you open up their managed WordPress, run a backup.
Yeah.
And
makes
tell
sense.
them you ran a backup, because that way, as you know, somebody is in there. Last thing you want is you open it up and the customer on the other end is, because a lot of times you don't know if you're talking to a freelance developer or if you're talking to somebody who, you know, manages WordPress day to day, or it's a small business owner that just, you know, it barely got to where they're at.
To say that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and 9/10 of it was somebody else developing it for them. Their developer disappeared off the face of the earth. They had the admin account and they got back in there and, hey, I need to change some content, and they don't know what they're doing. And it's scary, but
So how fast do those backups generally run, and how fast do their stores run?
the backups, you can do a backup for a WordPress site, and it will do a complete backup of that site on managed WordPress. It'll do a complete backup of that site almost instantaneously.
Does it just create a snapshot of everything on that share, on that drive partition, or however it's organized with GoDaddy? Or does it actually back up the database, then back up the files separately, and
Yeah.
keep track of the database password so that when you want to restore it?
So
you
your
restore it
first,
then?
you just backup management of the whole thing, and this isn't something that's GoDaddy taught, but something that I learned just selling backup and disaster recovery over the years is, and this is how I assume that it works, because it is almost instantaneous when you run a backup. And I think a lot of that is what happens is they do a full database backup. So that initial backup is going to take a little bit longer, but let's face it, it's a WordPress site. Chances are, I mean, this thing is not backing up a server. You can back up a server and it's going to take hours. When you're backing up a WordPress site and it's the first time, it's maybe going to take a minute or two. When you're backing up,
Unless you have 20 gigabytes of images.
Yeah, it all depends on the site.
yeah,
Sure.
but the thing is after that initial backup, which, let's face it, if you have 20 gig worth of images and you've never backed up before, let's have a side conversation, because that's wrong. Don't tell me you've never backed up 20 gigs worth of images.
Sure.
But the thing is what it does is after that initial backup, it backs up incremental changes. So with that, that's why it's almost instantaneous, because you've backed up your WordPress site, and if you're backing it up once a week or once a month, it depends on how quickly the content changes and how much content.
And let's face facts, GoDaddy does like essentially daily backups automated anyway. So, and so when they call in, it makes sense to
Yeah.
go, all right, let's take another snapshot of where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah, and managed WordPress, it's going to have that automatically built in.
Sure.
So,
Take that, DigitalOcean.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's funny.
DigitalOcean creates weekly backup
No,
snapshots.
I
They charge still, right? Isn't it $5 now for the dailies? They changed it. It used to be free.
For dailies?
I'm pretty sure it's $5.
No, they do weekly, and they charge you 20% of the hosting
Or
fee for
20,
that.
yeah.
So
Dailies.
if your hosting fee is $5, they charge you $1 a month.
Oh, yeah.
So $6 a month, and then you can create snapshots on the fly whenever you want, and it's all in SSD, so it's fast. Oops, that plugin didn't work. My site looks so funky. Restore, and it just takes that snapshot.
And I think Mike brought up last time was if you're doing backups, don't necessarily back up to the same disk. Because So if you lose that disk, you lose your backups.
Like, yeah, I always recommend having multiple copies of backups,
Right.
whether you put them on Dropbox or download them locally. Don't just store them on your WordPress site. So if someone hacked in it, they could wipe out your backups as well.
Right.
Well, another thing, always test your backups. I want you
Yeah.
to know. So I want you, let's do good backup
It's
practices.
a- yeah.
Accept the backups don't work.
It's always a good idea to understand how to restore your backup and use
Sure.
practice testing on a dummy site so you understand exactly what you actually need backed up and how you get it back. So,
One of the problems with backups is that when you don't realize that your site was hacked
yeah.
until your old backup is overwritten.
Yeah.
That's why it's nice to keep an archive.
Yeah,
of
keep a
several
local
backups.
copy of those archives somewhere. So.
And GoDaddy might send Hitman after me, but one thing that I noticed, just we're working with the content systems, and managed WordPress is good, but I'm the kind of person, I like to have my own keys, and I like to have control. And with managed WordPress, that's great if you're planning on always hosting that on GoDaddy. And if you're looking for that ease of use, managed WordPress is 100% the way to go. But if you're the kind of person that wants that control, or if you're doing 20 gigs worth of pictures and content, and you're doing, getting submerged into the WordPress development, you really need to look at another hosting platform like cPanel, where you are capable of doing the FTP and doing, you can upload WordPress on cPanel. The only difference is that you're managing it. You're not depending on GoDaddy to manage it. Now, that's kind of in your own realm of how dependable are you to manage your own backups. Are you going to go in there and back up daily? Because if you got 20 clients and you decide to build them on something like cPanel, and you're not managing that backup, then you're putting that at risk. But the reason why I like that is because just the ease of use, the ability to migrate, move. If you're like this guy who likes to go to like DigitalOcean or Bluehost or move around on different things, then you need that portability, and that's where I think something
Wait,
like,
did you say Bluehost?
Yeah.
Go wash your mouth out. Don't say mean things about me like that. It's not nice.
Were you
I
talking
shouldn't say that. They did give me a T-shirt. So.
Were you talking about Bluehost a couple months ago? I'm pretty sure you were.
There's a camera on, isn't there?
There it is. I'm gonna have to edit some
You're getting
stuff out.
pumped.
Yeah.
Ashton Kutcher will be in any minute.
Oh yeah.
I'm
just never mind.
No. But anyway, I'm just throwing it. I'm just giving you shit. But, I'm just throwing it out there that for me personally, if I'm gonna build something, I like to have control of it.
Sure.
And managed WordPress is great if you're looking for that ease of use. But as you get more involved and submerged into it, and you want that control, it's so much easier. Because then, especially if you need to pick something up and move it to different hosting.
Does a Jetpack have a backup option? I don't know if Jetpack
Jetpack
does.
has so much. I haven't kept up with it.
That might even have a free option in there, just to
Probably
plug-in
does.
feature, I think. But
Now with that, would they still control the backups then, or own the
I
backups?
honestly don't know Jetpack.
Jetpack, you would be in control. It's just a WordPress plugin, but
Okay.
it's one of those that's it's out there. A lot of people use it.
Sure.
Has a lot of features you can turn on. But
Tons.
it
It's
can also
getting
be a
more
lot of
and more.
security holes because they have got so much stuff in there all the time. You have to make sure you keep that one updated.
And that's,
There's other plugins called WordPress. I don't know what else is out there for backup plugins. Like I use Backup Buddy and I bought a developer license, so then I include that as part of my package that I give to a customer. Unless they want to buy their own plugin for that, then they can, but I just kind of bundle it in.
cool. Now, do any of you, when we talk, since we're on that topic of security, do any of you do much around doing a kind of a test development around new plugins or using plugins?
As far as testing plugins or?
Yeah.
Pen testing, that kind of thing.
Just create
Well-
a backup first. Yeah, unless it's a mission critical site, then yeah.
Right.
Restore it to another location from a
Yeah.
backup, create a test site.
I guess, and that's just part of, when you talk about security and stuff is what are you doing to test plugins? Because as I talked about, 50% dumb users, another 25% is just, not the right security. Now, security, you don't necessarily need that SSL certificate. It's only required if you're dealing with financial. So if you are dealing financials and you're not protecting your customer and putting an SSL on their forms page, submitting medical information or submitting financial information, you could be sued. And for a lot of money. I don't know what kind of clients you're working with, but that is a possibility you're putting yourself at risk for, is you can be sued. And so that's the only requirements around SSLs. It's recommended for just general forms. It's not necessary for not uploading any content information, but if you're doing general forms, it's kind of your own discretion, it's not required. And if you're really just taking main email address, it's not a big deal.
So I am in the midst of creating my first e-commerce site, so I'm using WooCommerce and all that. So what's like the basics that I need to get in SSL, because I have that. What are the other things that I need to be sure I do so we're not all screwed?
What are you building your e-commerce site in? Just in WordPress?
In WordPress, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, are you doing that with a managed WordPress?
I'm not sure. This is such a weird site that we started 3 years ago, and then ran out of money and whatever, and then started up. So I don't even know for sure what's going on, but I should check on that.
Okay.
So WooCommerce is strictly a WordPress plugin that enables a bunch of WordPress function or e-commerce functionality.
Right.
There's a lot of themes that work with or without WooCommerce. Once you enable the WooCommerce plugin, since it's so popular, a lot of themes have specific styling for the shopping cart, things like that.
Yeah. And I know, GoDaddy, they have an online shopping cart is their service. And so whenever you're doing a commerce site, it's actually the best solution when it comes to setting up the commerce, because they build in they kind of bundle the SSL. They bundle any kind of security software they have around it too.
Stop pimping your employer.
Yeah.
I don't but I'm just saying,
I disagree with that, but I do like WooCommerce. There are payment gateways you'll have to look
The
into.
payment gateway is probably a big thing. I've not done one myself.
There's a multitude of them out there.
Sorry, I've just never been a fan of GoDaddy's all-in-one solutions or their
Yeah,
SSL
I know,
certificates.
So what are these
Too
basic
expensive.
gateways?
Everything from PayPal to Avalon to
Stripe.
whatever. There's a
Basically-
ton out there.
Outsourced payment process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's-
who you're
so
gonna
you don't have to
accept.
take
So you
care of
just
that.
choose within there, right? You choose your gateway.
Correct.
choose
What you do is you
PayPal.
shop around to find out who's going to give you the biggest dollar back versus gouge you per transaction or
Percentage.
I'm sorry.
Percentage, some of them take
Correct,
percentage.
percentage, that type of thing.
And
Even Square's getting involved in this.
Yeah,
as I
Square now
recall.
has a plugin. It may come down to.
Square actually
client
has
already
integration with
working with
WooCommerce.
Correct.
I'm actually doing a client's website. She uses Square for her
Yeah,
her
for
brick
that
and mortar
type of
business, and she
client,
wants to
Yeah.
have
it makes
online
no
ordering.
sense to go anywhere else but Square.
On the other hand, I mean, there is a certain cost associated with doing business and performing these
Yeah.
transactions.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get credit card transactions for free.
It's just the way it works.
What you want is something that's gonna work well, be stable, and, you know.
Secure.
Does anyone
Secure,
have luck
right.
with any in the past, or the any that you would recommend?
Oh, PayPal has an
That was
integration
great.
with WooCommerce.
Cheap.
Amazon Payments has an integration with WooCommerce.
I've heard good things about Stripe.
Square.
Stripe, and I just read about Square finally got into the
They
market
did.
for WordPress. So,
Fast month?
Yep.
Or at all.
I wish QuickBooks would, that would be nice. but-
Sure. Hey, QuickBooks. Sorry.
No, but yeah, I think that,
SSL
yeah,
certificates.
Integration
Yeah.
is big. Integration with the different types of payments. So as you're out there looking, and the only reason I mentioned GoDaddy is because I have an inside track, having worked there, and know everything that they have.
Yeah, but
But
they're going to WordPress too. If you see what they're doing as a company, they're stepping that direction.
yeah, well, and that's why, you know, as you talk WordPress and stuff, they really kind of lean towards that, and I just kind of know inside track. You know, Seth, you work with a lot of them, like, you know, other opportunities. I'm just throwing that out there from the perspective of what to look for, and so when you're doing transactions, whatever you're researching out there, and whatever anybody's recommending, just the variety of payment options is huge.
Sure.
But they're all pretty much consolidated when you're using WooCommerce, which is a very good e-commerce solution to use, by the way, with WordPress. I think it's pretty much the only one that most people would recommend. But those payment gateways or payment portals, they're pretty much consolidated on the WooCommerce website, which I think is now owned by WordPress.
yeah.
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
can just
automatic
browse.
login.
You can browse through them, and I mean, PayPal develops their own, Amazon develops their own, so Stripe develops their own. So you can
Okay.
choose the one that your customer likes the most.
Okay, so
Just
can you
configure it.
use any theme with WooCommerce? Because like I said, this is a site I started like 3 years ago, and now I'm realizing that it's not. WooCommerce said, oh, this theme isn't optimized for it. Can you use it with anyone? Do you have to use their themes? It looks like they only have like 2.
You can use, well, different themes work with Woo. I've not done it. I mean, a lot of Genesis themes work with WooCommerce. There's Woo themes, isn't there? That
There is.
have their own theme.
Which they are not that great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I'm
I
a
looked at them
Genesis
and I was like,
person,
no.
so I would go towards Genesis, but that's what I do. So
No, a lot of them, and like you said, it's not
Yeah.
optimized for it.
I would find one that's
But it puts
optimized.
you know,
Right.
you don't have to,
Okay.
but it does still work.
Okay.
Some of the shopping cart functions can be wonky at
Okay.
best.
Yeah.
And I've done it, and it's, you know, it can be like kind of a hidden window or something like along those lines. But you can kind of fudge it depending on what you're trying to do.
Okay.
It
That
helps.
being said, you can also just do a different theme that actually promotes WooCommerce. And if you go to like Theme Forest, you'll notice that most of them will say WooCommerce.
Exactly.
Right.
Look for a theme that advertises
I look
itself.
for
as-
look for a theme that has like a good demo of it.
If you've not done it before, that's where I would go find one that works.
Oh yeah, I would too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm using the Rosa theme off of Theme Forest for this one client who's, you know, it's, you know, she's running a restaurant where he's going to use WooCommerce to allow like online ordering of food. So, and we're using WooCommerce because it also integrates with Square, incidentally. So, you know, I just read good things about how well Rosa presents WooCommerce items. So,
But you're on the right track with the SSL certificate, WooCommerce, and I think the other parts like the payment gateway and the theme you're going to figure out just fine.
Okay, so I'm not like totally lost.
No, and you already heard all our talkings about, you know, how important updates are, and so
Security.
backups. Yeah, it'll be fine. It's pretty much all you need from end to end, and your graphic design skills, of course. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned security. That is something else I use, which is basically, I wish we had a whiteboard here, but so when you register your domain name, you say this domain